It began, as so many tragedies do, with a missing person. Jason Callahan was 22, a college student in Minneapolis, bright, funny, and loved by everyone who knew him. On a frigid night in late November, after celebrating a friend's birthday, he vanished. His phone was found in the snow near the river. His jacket, folded neatly, sat on the railing of the bridge. 2 weeks later, his body surfaced downstream. The police called it an accident. Too much alcohol, a stumble into the freezing water. But Jason's mother swore he hated the river. He couldn't swim, and his friends swore he'd been walking in the opposite direction when they last saw him. The story should have ended there. It didn't. A year later, another young man disappeared. Same city, same circumstances. Night out. Phone found abandoned. Body recovered from the river weeks later. And then another, and another. The papers whispered about a serial killer. Detectives dismissed it as coincidence. The families disagreed. They called it the drowned ones. By the time Elena Marlowe heard the name, she had already buried her brother. He was the fifth. His face haunted her dreams. Blue lips, waterlogged skin, eyes clouded and empty. The police told her the same story they'd told every family. Accidental drowning. But Elena didn't believe them. And when she started digging, she realized the deaths weren't just accidents. They were invitations. Her investigation began online. Forums filled with half-baked theories. Maps connecting dots across the Midwest. Sightings of strange figures near rivers at night. And always, always, the same symbol painted somewhere near the scene of the disappearance. A crude, eerie smile. The first time she saw it for herself, her blood ran cold. It was spray painted under the bridge where her brother had been found. A wide, dripping grin, crooked and uneven. And beneath it, a message scrawled in red. He smiled for us. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She sat in her dark apartment, scrolling through photos of crime scenes, reading testimonies of grieving families. The pattern was undeniable. Every victim had drowned. Every victim was young, male, athletic. And every scene bore the mark of the smile. Coincidence? Or something worse? Around 3 a.m., her phone buzzed with an anonymous message. You're looking for us. She dropped the phone, her heart slamming against her ribs. When she picked it up again, the message was gone. The next day, she went to the river. Snow drifted over the banks, muffling the city's sounds. The water churned black, sluggish with ice. She stood at the railing, staring down, imagining her brother's final moments. Behind her, footsteps crunched. She turned. A man stood at the far end of the bridge, tall, broad-shouldered, his face hidden beneath a hood. He wasn't moving, just watching. Elena's stomach twisted. She turned back to the river, pretending not to notice. But when she looked again, he was gone. That night, Elena dreamed of water. She was sinking, lungs burning, darkness pressing in. Shapes moved below, figures with bloated skin and pale eyes, their mouths stretched in grotesque smiles. Her brother was among them. He reached for her, his lips moving. When she woke, she could still hear his voice. Smile for us. Elena stopped telling people what she was doing. Her friends had warned her to let it go, to grieve, and move on. The police rolled their eyes when she asked questions. Even her parents begged her to stop digging. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw her brother's face in the water, his lips stretching into that impossible grin. She couldn't stop. The first real lead came from a man named Daniel Cross. He contacted her through a forum dedicated to Smiley Face drownings. His message was short, almost frantic. Meet me. Don't tell anyone. They'll know if you do. They arranged to meet at a coffee shop on the edge of town. Daniel arrived late, shuffling inside with his hood pulled low. He was jittery, eyes darting to every corner as though expecting something to leap from the shadows. You shouldn't be looking into this, he said, his voice low and rough. That's how they find you. Who? Elena pressed. He licked his lips nervously. They call themselves the Drowned Ones. It's not just a name. It's what they make you. What they turn you into. Elena's stomach tightened. You're saying someone's killing them? A cult? Daniel shook his head. Not just killing, offering. He pulled out his phone, hands trembling, and scrolled through photos. Elena forced herself to look. Graffiti on underpasses, bridge supports, alley walls. The same crude, wide smile, painted over and over. And beneath one of them, written in dripping letters, the river keeps what belongs to it. They believe the water's alive, Daniel whispered, that it hungers, and they feed it. Young men, mostly. Strong ones. They say the river likes that best. But it's not just the water. It's what waits inside it. Elena's throat tightened. You've seen them? His eyes darkened. Worse. I've heard them. At night, near the river. Voices calling from the water. Some of them sound like people I used to know. Elena sat in stunned silence. Daniel leaned closer, his voice barely audible. They'll come for you. Once you start digging. They always do. She wanted to ask more, but Daniel's gaze snapped over her shoulder. His face drained of color. They're here. He stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair, and bolted out the back door. Elena scrambled after him, heart pounding. But when she pushed through the door into the alley, the cold air hit her like a wall. Daniel was gone. Only the sound of dripping water remained. That night, Elena checked the news obsessively. By morning, she found what she dreaded. Man found dead in Mississippi River. Possible drowning. The photo was grainy, but unmistakable. Daniel Cross, her only lead. Sleep came in fractured pieces. Again, she dreamed of sinking, of pale hands grabbing her ankles, pulling her deeper. Again, her brother's face appeared, his eyes wide and lifeless. But this time, he spoke clearly. They'll take you too. The next morning, she found something new on her apartment door. A smear of blue paint, a wide, dripping smile, and beneath it, scrawled in shaky letters, Smile for us. Elena didn't call the police. She stared at the painted smile on her apartment door for nearly an hour, hands trembling, stomach in knots. Every rational thought told her to scrub it clean, pretend it wasn't there, move out, move on. But rational thoughts had died with her brother. She took photos instead, dozens of them, every angle, every smear of paint. And then she packed a bag. If they knew where she lived, she couldn't stay. She drove until the city lights thinned and the dark pressed closer around her car. By dawn, she was outside the city, Limits, parked in a gravel lot near a frozen lake. The silence was suffocating. That's when she saw the man. He stood at the edge of the water, motionless, staring out at the ice. His clothes were dark, his hood pulled low, but even from a distance, Elena felt the weight of his gaze. She slid lower in her seat, heart pounding. The man slowly lifted his hand. Not a wave, not a threat, a gesture. He pointed at the lake. Elena blinked, and in that brief moment, he was gone. That night, she booked a motel under a false name. She couldn't shake the image of the man by the water, nor could she ignore the pull she felt, the sick, inexplicable urge to go back. By midnight, she gave in. The lake was even darker than before. The ice groaned, shifting under invisible weight. Elena stood at the shoreline, flashlight trembling in her hand. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered into the cold. The wind carried her words across the ice. For a moment, there was nothing. And then, faint but clear, "Smile." Her breath caught. She swung the flashlight wildly. Figures stood on the far side of the lake. 5, maybe 6 of them, spaced evenly apart, all in dark, hooded coats. Their faces lost in shadow. She couldn't see their eyes, but she could see their mouths, painted white, too wide, glowing faintly in the dark. Smiles. Elena stumbled backward, nearly dropping the light. Her car was too far, her legs too heavy. The figures didn't move. They only stood, watching, their painted smiles fixed. The lake groaned again, louder this time, and beneath the ice, Elena swore she saw something shift. A shadow, long, sinuous, moving just under the surface. Her brother's face flashed in her mind. She turned and ran. The motel clerk barely glanced at her when she burst inside, breathless and shaking. She locked the door, pulled the curtains, and sat with her back against the wall until dawn. When she finally dared to look outside, the car parked across the lot was gone, but the smear of blue paint on her motel door wasn't. This time, the message was longer. "Once you see us, you belong to us." She packed again. No plan, no destination, just running. But as the miles passed, she realized something that froze her blood. Every time she checked her rearview mirror, she saw the same car, dark, sedan, tinted windows, no plates, always 3 lengths back, always following. By the third day, exhaustion cracked her resolve. She pulled into a rest stop, determined to confront whoever was inside. But when she stepped out into the biting wind, the sedan door opened first. A man climbed out, tall, broad-shouldered, hood pulled low. "Elena," he said, her name rolling off his tongue like a secret. Her knees nearly buckled. "How do you know my name?" The man smiled. His lips were painted, wide and crooked, glowing faintly even in the daylight. "Because the river told us." Elena's first instinct was to run, but her body refused. The man's painted grin held her like a chain. She forced words past her dry throat. "What do you want from me?" The man tilted his head, as if amused. "We don't want. The river wants." Behind him, the sedan door opened. 2 more figures stepped out, their mouths painted in the same grotesque smile. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their silence was heavier than words. Elena backed away until her spine pressed against her car. Her keys shook in her hand. If you come closer, I'll scream. The man laughed softly. That's what they all say. He took a single step forward, then stopped. His smile faltered. He glanced at the tree line, his expression suddenly sharp. Elena followed his gaze. The woods beyond the rest stop were empty, or so she thought. For the briefest instant, she swore she saw something pale move between the trees. The man lowered his hood, revealing a face Elena would never forget. His skin was grayish, water-pocked, his eyes clouded, like drowned glass. He was dead. He had been dead for a long time, yet he stood before her, breathing, smiling. Elena's scream caught in her chest. The man leaned close, his voice a rasp of water and rot. You can't escape what's already inside you. The others moved then, advancing slowly, hands outstretched. Elena's body broke free of its paralysis. She scrambled into her car, slammed the locks down, and turned the ignition with shaking hands. The sedan didn't follow when she tore out of the rest stop, but she knew they didn't need to. They'd already found her. Days blurred. She avoided highways, stuck to back roads, sleeping in her car when exhaustion forced her. But no matter where she went, the painted smile returned. On motel doors, on road signs, even scrawled in condensation across her own windshield. When she woke one morning, it wasn't just a warning, it was a claim. Her breaking point came outside a forgotten riverside town. She had stopped for gas at a station that looked abandoned, its lights flickering weakly in the fog. Inside, the clerk barely glanced at her, but when she set her money on the counter, she noticed the tattoo on his wrist, a crooked smile. Her blood iced over. Where is it? She whispered, before she could stop herself. The clerk's eyes lifted, glassy and distant, down by the water. They'll be waiting. Elena stumbled back, but his hand shot out, gripping her wrist with surprising strength. His voice dropped to a rasp. They've been waiting for you, Elena. That night, against every instinct, she went to the river. The town was silent, streets empty, windows dark. Only the river moved, sluggish and black under the moonlight. Figures lined the shore, dozens of them, all hooded, all painted with those impossible smiles. They swayed gently, as if to music only they could hear. At their center stood the man from the rest stop. His drowned eyes gleamed in the dark. You've come, he said. Elena wanted to run, but her feet carried her forward, drawn by a pull she couldn't fight. The water's surface rippled, though no wind stirred. The man raised his hands. The painted figures lifted their voices in a low, guttural chant. The sound was like rushing water, like bubbles rising from a drowning mouth. From the river, something answered. A swell rose, dark and shapeless, yet threaded with pale, grasping arms. Faces pressed against the surface, distorted, screaming, smiling, her brother's face among them. Elena, he gasped, water spilling from his mouth. Come to us. She screamed and stumbled back, but the painted ones closed in. Their hands reached for her, cold as ice, strong as iron. The man's drowned smile widened. The river keeps what belongs to it. The painted ones circled Elena like vultures. Their chant swelled, guttural and wet, as though the sound itself came From beneath the river, the black water frothed, bubbling with unseen movement. Elena thrashed against their grip, but the hands holding her were not warm, living flesh. They were cold, slick, and unyielding, like the hands of corpses. "Let me go," she screamed. The drowned man, their leader, stepped closer, his clouded eyes fixed on her. His voice gurgled with water. "You belong here, Elena. Your blood called us the night your brother drowned." "My brother," her words broke, strangled by panic. "You killed him." The drowned man tilted his head. "No, the river chose him. We only guided him home. He smiled for us, just as you will." Her heart cracked. She remembered her brother's fear of water, his promise to never go near the river, drunk, the way he'd always avoided bridges. And now these monsters claimed he'd smiled for them? "No," she whispered, tears burning her eyes. "He wouldn't." The drowned man leaned closer, breath like rotting algae. "Then why do you hear his voice at night?" The river surged, and a shape broke the surface. Elena's scream died in her throat. It was her brother, or what remained of him. His skin was pale, bloated, his eyes milk white, yet unmistakably his. He staggered forward from the water, impossibly upright, his lips stretched in that grotesque painted grin. "Elena," his voice was a rasp of water and sorrow. "It's better here. No pain, no fear, just the current carrying you forever." Her knees buckled. "No, this isn't you." He reached for her, his wet fingers brushing her cheek. Cold burned her skin where he touched. "You'll see. You'll understand." The chant rose, the painted ones swaying. The drowned man raised his arms. The river swelled higher, faces pressing against the surface. Hundreds of them. Young men, boys, all twisted in watery grins. Elena's lungs seized with terror. Her brother's face lingered in the tide of the dead, beckoning her to join. "No," she screamed, wrenching free with a surge of desperate strength. She stumbled toward the tree line, but hands seized her again, dragging her down. The drowned man loomed over her. "Don't fight. The river already marked you. We've been waiting since the night you were born." Her blood froze. "What are you talking about?" He smiled wider, lips splitting at the corners. "Your family has always belonged to us. That's why your brother smiled so sweetly when he drowned." Something inside Elena snapped. Rage burned, hotter than fear. "No," she spat. "You don't own him. You don't own me." Her hand closed around a jagged rock at the riverbank. With a scream, she smashed it into the painted face of the one holding her arm. The figure crumpled, collapsing into the mud like a puppet with its strings cut. The others recoiled, their chant breaking. For the first time, silence fell, and in that silence, the river shrieked. It wasn't water, it wasn't human, it was something ancient, furious, betrayed. The surface exploded upward, a column of writhing limbs and faces, all smiling, all screaming. The painted ones dropped to their knees, bowing to the water. But Elena ran. Branches tore her arms as she crashed into the woods. Behind her, the drowned voices rose in unison. "Once you see us, you belong to us." She didn't stop until she collapsed on the roadside, lungs burning, throat raw. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold her phone. She dialed 911, The line rang once, then clicked, and a voice answered, her brother's voice. Why are you running, Elena? Don't you want to smile for us? Elena, devastated, stood on the side of the road, still clutching her phone. The call on the screen flashed. Unknown caller, but the voice was familiar. Her brother's voice. Elena, don't fight it. Come home. The river misses you. Stop, Elena sobbed, pressing the phone to her ear. You're not him. You're not my brother. The line hissed with static. Then, soft and wet, a chuckle. Smile for us. The call ended. For 3 days she ran, driving until her gas ran out, sleeping in bursts, hunted by dreams of water and painted grins. She refused to go near rivers, refused even to look at puddles. But it didn't matter. The water found her anyway. At night, faucets dripped, though she never turned them on. Showers roared to life when she passed the bathroom door. Condensation gathered on windows, and in it, always, the same crude smile. Her brother's voice whispered from every droplet. Soon, Elena grew desperate. She visited libraries, scoured old archives, hunting for history on the river cult. What she found only deepened the dread. For over a century, the town near the river had reported disappearances. Always young men, always pulled from the water weeks later. Police called it accident, suicide, misadventure, but the old papers carried darker stories. Smiling men seen near docks, river worshippers arrested in midnight rite. Witness claims the dead walk from water. Every generation had its drownings. Every generation ignored them, and every generation, someone tried to expose it and vanished. On the fourth night, Elena dreamed again. She stood at the riverbank, the painted ones around her. The drowned man stepped forward, his lips splitting into that grotesque grin. Behind him, her brother's bloated face broke the surface. Elena, he rasped, water spilling from his teeth. It's time. She woke, screaming, heart pounding, clothes damp, as though she'd been pulled from the river. Her motel room stank of algae, and on the wall, smeared in dripping blue paint, was one final message. We'll collect you tomorrow. She didn't wait. She fled before dawn, but no matter which road she took, it bent back toward the river. The water cut across her path like veins, always closer, always louder. By nightfall, she reached a bridge, and the sedan was waiting. The drowned man stood in the headlights, hood low, painted smile gleaming. Behind him, the painted ones lined the bridge. Silent, patient, Elena's hands tightened on the wheel. She could turn back. She could try another road. But deep down, she knew there were no other roads left. She stepped out into the cold. The river roared below, hungrier than ever. The drowned man opened his arms. It is finished. The river takes what belongs to it. Elena's body trembled. Her brother's face rose from the water, pale and broken. His hand stretched toward her. Elena, he whispered, smile for us. For a heartbeat, she considered it, giving in, ending the terror, joining him. But then she saw it, not love in his eyes, not warmth, only hunger. Elena screamed, a raw defiance that tore her throat. She turned and ran, not away from the bridge, but toward the drowned man. His grin faltered in shock as she hurled herself at him, driving both of them over the railing. The painted ones wailed. The river opened to receive her. Cold swallowed her. Darkness pulled her down. Faces pressed against her, smiling, gnashing, whispering. Her brother's arms wrapped around her, pulling her deeper. Home, he hissed. Forever. When the river calmed, the bridge was empty. No Elena. No drowned man. Only a smear of blue paint left on the railing, dripping into the water below, and 3 words scrawled beside it. She smiled too.